To no surprise, Tori Salazar and her chief deputy, Mr. Himmelblau, have decided to not file any charges against David Wells. We are very disappointed. We feel that David Wells is a danger to the community, that there have been multiple complaints about David Wells prior to the shooting, murder of Colby Friday, and yet he's still packing a gun and he's still walking the neighborhood. So this is a situation which is unresolved. And as Dr. Hall very eloquently told Ms. Salazar, African American men are being killed by Caucasian police officers regularly at a disproportionate number. And it is a legacy that this country is not turning around. It is a legacy that exists in Stockton, and it's ongoing. And we are disappointed that there is no further action that the district attorney is going to take. She stated that she's going to send her report to the California Attorney General, Mr. Becerra, and to see if Mr. Becerra is going to render a different opinion. And we will do what we can to seek a meeting with Mr. Becerra to see if he can take the appropriate prosecutorial action, because we do not believe that the actions of David Wells were justified.
Can I answer any questions?
Oh, yes, I just want to say that if David Wells had he was wearing a body camera, but if he had it activated at the point of contact, then we would actually know what happened. But since he failed police procedure and protocol, we'll never know.
And what we got was a lot of inconsistencies, actually. They claim that although they can't tell for certain, they believe the kill shot was the first shot, which was right through the mouth, went into the base of the skull. And if that's the case, that's totally inconsistent with the statement that Wells made that he heard a gun drop, what he thought was a gun drop, and that his justification for killing Colby was that he was reaching down to get the gun. Well, if he was reaching down, clearly it would have been the top of his head or the back of his head that got hit, not the face. And clearly he didn't come up with a gun in his hand because there was no gun anywhere near him. It was only a cell phone that the witness said he saw at his feet. And there was a gun found 30 feet away that had none of his fingerprints on it. And there's no suggestion that it was thrown over the fence. So there are a lot of questions about what justification, if any, Wells could possibly manufacture. And clearly they're putting a lot of weight on his statements in order to justify not prosecuting him.
Not having seen the report yet, can you kind of sum up the reasoning behind their decision?
I think you should get that from the district attorney's office.
Yes.
We weren't satisfied with the reasoning.
Yeah, I can sum it up. I think all too often the laws, the police policy and procedures are institutionally set up to make it nearly impossible to bring a criminal charge against aggressive, predatory Caucasian officers on the hunt to kill African American males, and for my nephew Colby Friday to be profiled and targeted because he's an African American male, that makes all of us at risk. It's got to be clear to everybody that this is wrong. It happens all the time. And if you keep letting these white officers kill African American men, sooner or later they're going to be killing also white men. So this cancer is going to spread beyond the African American male who is getting murdered. This is murder. We saw video of my nephew bleeding from the mouth, and after having been shot 7 or 8 times and shot at 13 times. This is predatory. Colby should have never been stalked in the beginning. The officer pulled his car over, saw him walking down the street, followed him into the market, ran around corner after corner after corner after corner, never saw a gun except in his mind because he maybe wanted to see a gun. And so we need all communities and all races to say, this is wrong, this is enough, this needs to stop. This is worse than what, Hitler did to the Jews. Now, are we going to continue to stand by? Because if you're standing by, whoever you are, and you're allowing this to go on, then I hope one day you realize that you have no conscience. And we all need to do something to stop this.
So I know you'd rather let them answer for why they reached their decision, but I mean, they must have offered a reason, whether it was valid or not.
They hide behind their interpretation of Tennessee v. Gardner, some jurisprudence that will give the officers a little bit of an edge. That is, what a reasonable officer would do under the same circumstances. Well, what are the circumstances? That's the question.
They said they didn't charge the case because they felt like they couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. That's too high of a standard. So that needs to be changed. That's what they said.
That's for a jury to determine whether
That's right.
whether there's doubt or not.
The other issue is there have been multiple community complaints about David Wells and his racism, his violence, and his hostility toward African Americans and African American males. They didn't interview a single one of those people. And when I asked him that question, his response was, well, that is irrelevant in this situation. And I said, well, how can you justify that David Wells's fear of this imaginary gun exonerates his killing of Colby Friday if you don't look at his previous conduct, if you don't look at things, his expression of racism and hostility and unabashed violence? That how can you say any reasonable person would have done what he did when David Wells is not your average reasonable person? It was an unreasonable conduct. And it was unreasonable from the beginning when he jumped out of the car and chased Colby into the store and out of the store and around 3 corners. That in and of itself is unreasonable. And Colby was running away. There is no legal justification for shooting someone from 50 feet away when they're running away, and there's no crime that Colby committed in David Wells' presence. This was a murder.
Did they show you the film again today? The
No.
video? No, not today.
I just want to say that it was a mistaken identity in my son's case. They admit to it's a mistaken identity, that my son was not being pursued for anything that he had done. It was the officer that was looking for another individual, which we all know it was not Colby. It was not Colby Friday. So I just want to say to all the officers, to all the police chiefs, to all the district attorneys all over the United States of America, stop letting your officers commit murder. Prosecute these people and put them in jail where they belong. And that's to all the mothers that are out there, that they have been unjust and justice have not come. Justice will come, because we know who the just judge really is, and he don't be here. So just remember, all you police officers, all you police chiefs, all you district attorneys, persecute them people and put them in behind bars where they belong. They never gave our children a chance to be arrested, tried, or convicted. They were the judge and the juror and the executioner.